I'm going to be talking on a topic in Hebrew called Chosser Vadaut, which simply really means uncertainty, or more specifically, lack of certainty. And it's something that I've been thinking about lately because I was going through my old notes and studying with my teacher, my past teacher, on this. And we talked quite a bit about it. And I thought it kind of important, not just for our meditation practice, but also for our world of activity and what we do and what we choose to do and what we choose not to do. I think it's a good idea to have an understanding of it, because generally speaking, this lack of certainty or uncertainty is looked at as a negative thing, right? And in most general vocabularies is associated with doubt, right? So in the spiritual vocabulary of the Semitic tradition as well as the Vedic tradition, they're very different, right? Now, I understand in general regular vocabulary, if you look up the word doubt, you might see uncertainty right in the definition. So I get that it is similar in that way. But within even the social sciences and philosophy, and then, as I said, in the holy sciences, the holy scriptures and stuff, uncertainty and doubt are really two very different things. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes explaining those differences, right? So uncertainty, we experience it in every meditation, hopefully, right? So when we meditate, we're not certain at all what's going to show up, right? We don't know if we're going to have a lot of thoughts, very little thoughts, emotions, unstressing, the gap of no thoughts, enlightenment. Who knows what's going to happen from one meditation to the next? And you've been taught that when we meditate, we don't judge or anticipate or hope for something to happen. We're just in acceptance of that uncertainty, right? And that's really critical to successful meditation, because successful meditation, or well drilling, as the Semitic tradition calls it, requires a surrender, right? So if we find ourselves hoping for no thoughts, or hoping or wishing for blissful thoughts, right, then we're not in a state of surrender. We're trying to be something, where instead of letting go of trying and just accepting what happens. So the key phrase that Maharishi used to use is, take it as it comes. Whatever happens, happens. So that means we're in a state of lack of certainty, right? The only thing that is certain is the witness, and that's our being. And our being, as we know, is connected with pure consciousness, the absolute, or Ein Sof, right? So what's going on in our meditation? We're having these thoughts, we're having these feelings, we're having emotions, unstressing, something coming up like a dream, whatever, a vision. All of those things are happening to us in our meditation. But we, our being, our pure consciousness, is witnessing them. And that pure consciousness is what is unchanging. That witness is that which is absolute, right? So that's why we have a relative and an absolute. We have pure consciousness, being, without end. So that witness, as Krishna said to Arjuna on the battlefield, that witness was did not exist and will never in some future time cease to exist. So that's the unchanging element of it. Everything else changes. So it's the same in the world of activity, right? So we're meditating, we're experiencing that Holy of Holies within us. Occasionally, we experience it as unchanging witness, being, pure consciousness, and it emanates. But when it emanates into the world of creation and formation and action. And those worlds, everything is always changing and necessarily. So, Chosser Vadaut, which literally means lack of change, is absolutely a lack of certainty, excuse me. It means change, lack of certainty. It's absolutely necessary for growth to higher states of consciousness. So it's a positive thing. Lack of certainty is a positive thing because without it, there would be no growth into higher states of consciousness. And if you think about that for a second, you'll realize that it's true. If you were certain about how things would reveal themselves to you or how things are, you would never, certainty means you wouldn't change. And not lack of change means no growth. And no growth means no higher states of consciousness. So this thing that we call lack of certainty not only exists always in our lives, but is a positive thing that we can embrace and accept. And it's tough because it's not something that we just naturally accept and embrace. Human nature wants us, we always lean into, well, I wish my situations and circumstances wouldn't change, unless you're in a losing streak, right? Then you're wanting to change. But most of the time, if things are going well, you're thinking, I don't want to change. I don't want uncertainty. I don't want to live in the world of uncertainty. I want to know that I can pay my mortgage all the way to the end of the mortgage, right? I want to know that I'm going to have 100% complete good health. I'm not going to get sick. So you want to be in this sort of what we call the construction phase and not the deconstruction phase. You want to be in that sense of certainty where the floor below you is stable all the time. So it takes a little bit of mindfulness practice to really see uncertainty and living in that world of uncertainty as a positive thing. I mean, there's no way to get around the fact that life is uncertain, except denial of reality, right? Well, we know it in our meditation, it's uncertain if we're meditating correctly. But in the world of action, we want everything to be dependable. Just like the Zoom class, the Zoom link should be what it should be. But we purposely made it different today, just so that you could experience uncertainty for real in this lesson. So that's what life, how it shows up. It's not always that one click that everything is the same. So how is that different from doubt? It's very much different because, as I'm saying, uncertainty is like a law of nature in the relative sphere of existence. So all of these worlds, everything outside of emanation is and being, which is pure consciousness and absolute, is always changing, and it's uncertain. It's uncertain how it will change, and it's uncertain when it will change. That's just a fact. So acceptance of that is certainly something that would benefit us. Why fight it? On the other hand, doubt is something that we initiate in the vocabulary of the mystics. So I'm talking about the vocabulary of, let's say, the Torah or the Veda, right? So I'm not, just generally speaking, you could argue with me that the real definition of doubt is uncertainty. I don't want to have that argument. I'm just talking about from the spiritual teachings. Doubt is something that we initiate, and it has to do with distrust and lack of confidence. Okay, so that's very different than accepting uncertainty. So if we're in a state of accepting uncertainty, we're not sure about our narratives. We're not sure, even if we reflected on something that's very dear to us, which is our meditation, we could say, I've been meditating for 3 years. I'm not sure what is the next phase for me. I'm not sure if it's helping me with my health, emotionally, spiritually, or physically, but I do it anyway because I think like it is helping, and I'm choosing to do it, right? So there's an element of what's called in Hebrew emunah, right? Emunah is faith. So faith is a positive thing. Uncertainty is a positive thing. The uncertainty keeps us unstuck on any particular narrative and allows us to be in the experience of change and chakmah, which is wisdom. That is the path. To be in that state of change and wisdom and allow it to reveal itself to us, not stuck on a particular narrative, right? So if you were stuck on the narrative that there is Santa Claus, and I hope everyone I'm not, spoiler alert, okay? If you were stuck on a narrative that there is Santa Claus, you may really at some point be an adult with some serious psychological problems, right? But maybe when you were younger, you believed in Santa Claus and you were willing to let go of that belief as you realized that not every house has a chimney. It's kind of hard for one person to get around to that many houses. And you saw your parents bringing in the presents and putting them under the tree. So that changed, that stuckness changed. And I think you realized at that point, certain things are uncertain. What I believe today may not be true and may change. But what's unchanging is that experience of the witness, that pure consciousness, pure silence within us, that's unchanging. So if we look at doubt and we say distrust and lack of confidence, we could see how that, initiated by us, can really be damaging. Because then we don't trust that we're getting anything out of our meditation, for example, right? Or we don't trust each other, and we have no faith in each other, and it becomes a negative rather than a positive. So we think of uncertainty as a positive that enables us to change. We could think of doubt from the spiritual perspective as a negative in terms of it is distrusting, and also it creates lack of confidence and ultimately lack of action. For example, you could be applying for a job that would be really good for you. And then you start to doubt. Oh, maybe these people, maybe I can't trust them. Maybe this, maybe that, or a relationship with a new partner. Well, when you start having that lack of confidence or doubt, it can snowball into a negative thing. So doubt in the scriptures, doubt in the mystical traditions is generally experienced as negative. So my point here is, let's be an acceptance of uncertainty, but let's not feed that thing that we call doubt. In the Hebrew, safek, it's spelled samek pe kuf. It has a numerical value of 240. Amalek has a numerical value of 240. So the scriptures always talk about destroying Amalek. And it's unfortunately, in my opinion, often related to a group of people. So, and that's how it shows up in the metaphor that's in the Torah. But today's day and age, and in our higher consciousness, we understand that this whole thing is a metaphor of the battlefield of consciousness. So what are we trying to destroy? We're destroying the negativity of lack of confidence, distrust, which we call doubt. That is a numerical value of 240 and is Amalek. Okay? So, are there any questions about that? Synopsis is, we can live in the world of uncertainty, accept it as positive, while we destroy the doubt that gives us lack of confidence and distrust.